Hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I'm Catherine, that's Emily, and this is not an episode that we plan to film today.
Not today. I thought maybe eventually, but not today.
No, certainly not.
Not this season. But yeah, so welcome to our first red flag rundown in a very long time. Christian Horner's gone.
Yeah, he's been gone. It is Sunday as we're recording because I was sick. I was away from my equipment. You've been very busy. I've been very busy. So here we are. This was announced on Wednesday. I woke up very early because I was ill and I was squinting through the notifications on my phone, of which there were a ton, half of which were camp related, and then there was all of this, and I'm just like, oh no, it's way too early for this. And then I think I might have texted you, and then I rolled back over and went back to sleep.
No, so it's funny because the news came out UK time, obviously, or Europe time, and I trying to wake up, whatever, roll out of bed, and I see a text from one of my friends, and he's like, "Is Catherine okay?" I was like, oh my god, there's been a natural disaster in California. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, oh no, now what? We just had the floods in Texas. There's a landslide in Southern California, and now Catherine's gone missing. And then I'm like, I don't know, man. It's really early. I haven't caught up with her. What do you mean? He's like, Horner. And I was like, what? And then I immediately went down the rabbit hole. But yeah, I was like, that was my immediate reaction to the news was, oh no, there's a natural disaster in California.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh wow. Yeah, I was trying, I did not have my contacts in. I was quite sick. I'm still recovering a little bit, so if my voice sounds weird, that's why. But yeah, I was like, oh, well, this might as well happen when I say to myself, no, Catherine, I don't need to bring my podcasting equipment 100 miles away from my mother's for my session break. No, I don't need
to. Why would you do that?
We have a week till spa.
I know, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It's I'm kind of mad they didn't wait till spa because I feel like we deserve to see a TP fired in spa. That is our right as F1 fans.
Yeah,
we look forward to it every year, and they're just gonna take it away from us. But
clearly,
anyways, but yeah. So Horner's out, announced on Wednesday. He was the CEO and the team principal, so I know that was a little confusing. I know I saw people being or talking at work oh my gosh, the CEO was fired at Red Bull. I'm like, no. Red Bull Racing, the F1 team, not the actual energy drink company. But yeah, so a little out of left field. But it makes sense. But it makes sense.
I have kind of gone back and forth of, should this have happened after the end of the 2024 season, or was there no choice for it to be now? Should they have waited to the summer break, or the end of 2025? So I've kind of gone back and forth, and I think the answer is that there's no good answer. Obviously, the board of directors at Red Bull has seen the writing on the wall due to the performance this season. Obviously, the issues with the second seat, from the Checo of it all to the Liam of it all to the Yuki of it all, who is still struggling. And then there's Max's side, and there's all of this noise about Max and Mercedes, and Max's boat and Toto's boat, they were both in Sardinia, so what could that possibly mean, because that's not a big island, and all of that. So it makes sense that they would want to do this now. Horner was informed on Tuesday that Wednesday would be his last day. I think it was probably a lot more generous compared to other teams who have had high-profile exits, that he was allowed to speak to the staff as the news broke. But I don't think there was ever going to be a good time to make this change.
I mean, no, the thing that I struggle with, or I guess don't struggle, but it's just the part of the sport that's so brutal is is Red Bull performing great? No. Are they performing horribly to where you would fire their head coach essentially? I also think no. I mean, were there some questionable decisions around bringing in Liam, then bringing in Yuki? Maybe, and he does have final say, but there's a lot of, again, there's a lot of other people who make these decisions and sign off on things too, and it's not like they're getting fired. I personally didn't think Red Bull was in a spot where they were doing so horribly that they had to sack their team principal. Like, that's not, like,
So
maybe at the end of the season if they didn't do super well, but when you still have a lot of races left, we're not even to the summer break. Or are we at the summer break?
no, we're not. No.
No, we're not at the summer break yet. There's like 27 summer breaks this year, so who knows? But we're not at the official summer break. I feel like I don't know. Just because he's been there since day one, it's just so weird to see him leave. And
Right,
I did not anticipate it, honestly.
No one did. I think what was really interesting is I read a report somewhere that Max's team, his personal team, was informed prior to Horner being informed that Horner was being fired. Max's team was given the heads up that this was happening before any of it. So
Okay,
it
so
does.
let's pause there. That's
Mhm.
weird.
Right.
But at the same
right.
time, it's not. Because, like, if you think about it, if Max is, like, still kind of in contract negotiations and, like, he's probably speaking to Horner. So they're probably like, hey, man, let's, like, pause on the conversation because we're actually booting him. So, like, let's just pause, like, stop that communication, which I think it makes sense to inform Max. But I think it would happen, like, concurrently, not
Right.
before.
Right. So my thought on this is, and this is what I've been seeing from multiple, outlets, is that, is this an effort that Red Bull is making to keep Max? Because going back to the beginning of the 2024 season and all of the Christian Horner drama and everything that's been happening and all of the behind the scenes, etc., and the kind of the schism between Christian Horner and Jos Verstappen, Max's overly invested father, that could have been part of this effort to keep Max happy and keep Max happy at Red Bull by getting rid of somebody that the Max camp isn't very happy with right now.
Right. And I think, but again, I really want to emphasize and stress, like, the Max camp, because I truly don't think Max cares all that much. As long as he's getting a car and he's able to deliver, I think he's happy. I honestly think it's to appease, like, his dad and his camp, and, like, they have this vision and they're not performing. So it's like, oh, if you want to get him to stay, these are our stipulations. If you want to get him to stay, we need better performance. But, like, at the same time, it's hard for me to see the argument that the team principal of V-Carb is going to do better with Red Bull than Christian Horner, who's been there from the beginning, who has all the success. Like, I just don't get it. I really don't. I'm going to be honest, I never saw Christian Horner leaving. I saw him retiring, and that's it. Like, I don't see him going to another team. I don't see him doing anything else. Like, he is Red Bull's team principal. He has been there from the get-go. I just don't see it.
So the other thought is that ever since so over the years, the way that Red Bull, as the overarching organization that owns the Formula One team and produces soft drinks and has the Extreme Red Bull Sport, that ownership group was the Mateschitz family. Dietrich Mateschitz, he passed away a couple of years ago, and so now it is, there's the Austrian outfit, and then there's the Thai outfit. And the Thai outfit has the controlling interest of 51%, whereas the Austrian outfit has 49%. And Christian Horner has been allied very closely with that 51% of ownership, and they have been some of his biggest supporters on the board. There has been some alleged moves of 2% of this ownership stake to another party that we really don't know what it is. There's nothing really clear on it, but it could mean, it might not, but it could mean that Christian did lose the support of his final, supporters on the board, that led to them finally being able to pull the trigger that they may have wanted to have pulled for a while.
Well, okay, and so I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room, right? Like, I will caveat my statement of I never saw him leaving with the scandal that happened last year of I don't want to say, maybe scandal is not the right word, but the alleged harassment in the workplace, right?
Right.
Which he was cleared of. An independent team came in. Nothing happened. Like, nothing came of it. He maintained his position with the team.
Right.
I would have thought, like, they would have fired him then. And, like, if it was a U.S. team or, like, a U.S. league, he would have been fired. Like, they wouldn't have given him the courtesy of an investigation, honestly. They would have just gotten rid of him because of the optics. But if anything, I would have thought he would have been let go last year. And then once everything was cleared and it came out that they didn't find any, anything through the investigation, I was like, oh, well, now he'll be here forever. So it's just interesting that this is, like, they just fire him now versus last year. I think. But, okay, so never mind. You can go.
I was just going to say that the other thought is that they're really looking towards this new regulation as a kind of reset with Max or without him. I personally think, even with all of this Mercedes interest in this Mercedes, we want him so much. And Mercedes, being allegedly willing to pay out Max's Red Bull contract, which is in the very high digits of monies, is they want to start moving Red Bull in a direction that is, Jonathan Wheatley is gone, Adrian Newey is gone, Sergio Perez is gone.
They're bringing in
all these regime. People. They're getting ready for a new regime in the new regulation with Red Bull Ford coming on and Ford powertrains. They're going to be the new engine supplier starting next year. New regulation, new car, 1 or 2 new drivers, depending on, because we still don't know what's going to happen with Yuki and where Yuki's going to go, what Yuki's going to do. So this could be giving Are Mekies, who was the team principal at VCarb, and he is now the CEO and might also be team principal. They haven't really nailed down if he's also going to stay as team principal alongside it. That, getting him set up and giving him time, 6 months, for this new regime to begin before the new regulation starts in January.
Yeah, it just seems really premature, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird timing. It's weird timing, and I guess you can say, like, oh, well, they didn't win constructors last year, and they're not going to win this year, and so, like, that's the final straw. But that just seems crazy to me. But, I mean, maybe they're just demanding excellence, and they want to win every single year, and they'll just start firing TPs like Ferrari does.
I mean that doesn't strike me as what's happening here. This isn't like the NHL where you can take someone to the Stanley Cup final and get fired, it feels like. But I don't think we're ever really going to know why Christian Horner was ultimately let go unless, somebody says something. But I don't think that any party is actually going to cop to the real reasons why. And so it could just be a matter of a lot of things. But I don't think it's the fact that Red Bull's currently 4th in the championship. I think that's probably it's a high consideration, but it's certainly not the highest. And I do think that it could be more so, let's keep Max happy so that if he's deciding on his future, his decisions are going to be wait out until 2028, retire in 2026, or at the end of 2025, over going to Mercedes. And,
yeah, they're just putting all the pieces in place to keep Max happy, which, like, is very plausible, honestly. But that's the other thing. Like, Max is literally going to do whatever he wants. So trying to appease him, I feel like, is just such an uphill battle. Like, I don't know. I understand it, but I think it's just, he's going to do whatever he wants regardless. And I think he does have a good relationship with Horner. Again, I think it's honestly his camp more than him.
Yeah, and then there's the question of, like, the Helmut Marko versus Christian Horner and just how big of a schism there really became between them. And Max has really made clear, like, I'm going to stay at Red Bull so long as Helmut Marko stays at Red Bull. So, and Helmut Marko contract extended. So I think that as long as Helmut Marko is at Red Bull, and I could totally be wrong as I finish the sentence, but as long as Helmut Marko stays at Red Bull, Max will be willing to, at the very least, wait out the end of his contract before he retires.
Yeah.
Watch me finish this episode, and then we put it out there, and, Toto wins the battle, and Max is going to Mercedes and replacing George.
Well, okay, get ready for your tinfoil hat theory here. But someone said that it would be not crazy if Horner becomes TP of Ferrari next year.
So I have heard that, and then I have heard since that they're not interested, and that they are working on extending Fred Vasseur's contract, which is a little shocking to me, mostly because Fred Vasseur is as we've talked in our F1 genealogy series about Ferrari, their team principals average about 3 years before they get unceremoniously canned, and Fred Vasseur is getting to that time. But there have been questions of Christian Horner going to Ferrari for a long time, and I don't necessarily think that that's something that he wants to do, nor do I think that Ferrari is interested in bringing him on.
No, honestly, I think Horner's out. Like, I think he's done. I don't think we'll see him back in F1.
So
I
there's
truly
a
don't.
chance. There's a chance that we don't. The other thing that I have been seeing is I've been seeing, column A, he's done in Formula One. He'll become a pundit or something, or he'll just, retire and be Jerry Horner's husband. The other thing that I have seen is he will find his way back into Formula One through ownership stake of another team. Which
Right.
not unlike, Toto Wolff is an owner of the Mercedes Formula One team. I think he's got like a third of the ownership. And so if Christian Horner is going to return to the sport as a team principal, as a whatever, then it would likely be as somebody who has more of a controlling interest. So he would, buy Alpine or buy a percentage of Haas, something like that, rather than just, go to a team on another contract. Because I do feel like going from CEO and team principal to just straight up team principal would be more of like a demotion type of move, rather than the typical lateral move that you would see as team principals kind of hop around the sport.
Right. And I think, like, I don't know, he did 20 years at Red Bull? Like,
You're right.
You don't just have, I mean, that's a pretty cush job. Like, they were good for majority of those years, but also, like, you have the stability.
Right.
Where if you look at all the other teams, how many team principals has every team had in 20 years? Like, a shit ton.
Yeah, the only one that has had only 2 has been Haas since they hopped on the grid, and that was, not even all that long ago. I think it was their first year was 2016, and they were 2 team principals.
If you look at Mercedes, it's like just Toto, but at the same time, it's like you don't have the stability, and he just doesn't strike me as someone who like wants to hop around for the next 12 years.
No,
you know what I mean?
He's been there, he's done that.
So much money, he doesn't need to do it. I'm sure he had some equity in the team or something, Yeah,
so and the buyout that they are going to have to negotiate his buyout, as he has said in his statement to the staff. Like he will be staying with the organization, but he will not be working anymore, which basically means he will be an employee of Red Bull until they negotiate his buyout, because his contract is until 2030 and is about 10 million pounds per year. So they have 50 million pounds to negotiate out. And obviously there's like, well, you were good, but now Red Bull's not great. So how much money do we really need to give you out of this buyout? So that negotiation will probably take a while, but I think financially the Horners are going to be fine.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Checo, right? Because he was like, oh, I'm staying on as like part of the company. I'm like, no, buddy, you're not. You're not staying on.
Yeah, he's, going on safaris with his family.
God bless. All right, well, I was shocked, and I spent a large majority of my morning on Wednesday trying to figure out what was going on, so yay for these little situations. And it kind of makes me wonder, and like super random, has nothing to do with Horner, but this just made me think, like, we have a lot of open seats next season, and we haven't heard anything on contracts.
Yeah, the coming silly season, which, oh my God, they're waiting until August because last year was so much, is going to be really interesting. Yuki's out of contract. All of the rookies are on single-year contracts. There are so many questions about seats, plus the 2 Cadillac seats that are going to be open coming onto the grid. We have a lot of questions here that's going to be really, really interesting as we go forward. I want to add before we move on, Christian Horner was not the only principal person at Red Bull who was removed from his position. 2 other staffers who are believed to be very close allies of Christian Horner's were also put on gardening leave, which is, as we've talked about this before, but as a reminder, is a thing in the UK that basically refers to a period where an employee of a company is stood down from their duties. They're not working anymore, but they're put on full pay to, you know, protect sensitive information and team relationships as they work on, you know, changing hands and positions. So these 2 people are Paul Smith, the director of communications for Red Bull Racing, and Oliver Hughes, the chief marketing officer. So, and that also kind of goes to explaining why it took so long for Red Bull to make any statements on social media, because the people who do the communicating, who were in charge of that, were also gone. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
So that'll be very interesting, especially with how, like, Formula One social media is so prevalent and so, you know, valuable in the growth of the sport, as we talked about with the that survey that they just released a couple of weeks ago. So it'd be very interesting to see who is going to fill those positions, if they're going to promote internally like they did to replace him with Laurent Mekies, who is taking over, moving from VCARB, from Racing Bulls, and then Alan Permane, who joined Racing Bulls as the racing director in 2024. He will now be the team principal. And I think what's also very interesting, speaking of Spa, that Laurent Mekies left Ferrari at Spa in 2023 when Otmar Safnauer got fired.
I didn't know that.
And not only that, but Alan Permane parted ways with Alpine also when Otmar was fired.
It all comes back to Otmar.
It all comes back to Otmar and Alpine. Yeah.
So, but okay, so this is my next, like, weird thing. So they fire Christian, great, fine. But then they're also going to shake up VCARB. Like, they don't matter just to, like, help out. Like, that's the thing I don't like, I do, because they're, like, sister teams or whatever. Yeah. I understand it, but it's like, this one person is just creating so much, like, chaos. But I guess if they just didn't have anyone at Red Bull who could, like, take the position, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like
it seems to me like they did this too prematurely. They should have waited until they had, like, a for sure person that could slide in there instead of, like, shaking up both teams. Because what are they going to do? Are they going to keep Mekies as the CEO and, like, TP for next season, or are they going to send him back to Red Bull Racing?
No, they're not going to send him back to Racing Bulls. He's the CEO now. Like, this isn't like an interim coach thing where he's going to be, like, the assistant coach becomes the interim head coach and then goes back to being the assistant next year. And, like, Mekies has been in Formula One since 2000, so he's been around the block
for a long time.
He was the sporting director at Ferrari back in 2018. He was there for a while. You know, he may not seem like, you know, he doesn't have the same charisma as Christian Horner did, or that a Toto Wolff has, or, you know, the uniqueness of James Vowles, or Zach Brown being
or the
American,
loud voice of Zach Brown,
being loud and being you know, having opinions. But he's you know, he's been there. He's also been at Racing Bulls for a very long time. He moved to Minardi, you know, right before Minardi was bought by Red Bull and turned into Toro Rosso. Then he left and came back. So he has a lot of experience within, like, the program. And also, I feel like this could also be a thing where not only is Racing Bulls a training ground for drivers, but also a training ground for staff. So, you know, they're training staff to come and be ready to fill up their equivalent roles at Red Bull in a future potential opportunity.
No, I know. But you understand my point of it's like they're shaking up all of the teams now.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin Isaac Hadjar's rookie year. Is the most important part of this.
Basically.
Like the most important thing is making sure that Isaac Hadjar's career as an F1 driver stays stable. Like, Max will do what Max wants. The whole thing that we're worried about is Hadjar.
I know, honestly. That's okay. So also going back to contracts, way off track. But I don't think we'll have silly season in silly season. I think it'll be in, like, December, like post.
It'll be a late silly season.
They're gonna wait and see how all the rookies do. They're gonna wait and see how all the rookies do.
Which is fair. I mean, I think that barring what's going on at Mercedes with Max, I think that once Max makes his actual decision is when they will make a decision on Kimi, and either Kimi will stay in his seat, or if Max goes to Mercedes, he will he will become the reserve driver. And
Yeah.
so I think that his future is very much clear, that unless Max decides to make a change, Kimi is staying where he is. And I think Isaac Hadjar has also done the work, and he has performed to the point where Red Bull knows that they would be crazy to lose him. So then your real questions are going to be George's contract, Yuki's contract. Who else is up who else is up? Gabby Bortoletto is going to stay. Ollie Behrman's going to stay. So I think that it should stay stable unless Max moves.
Right, and like that's like the linchpin here is like we're all just operating on Max's timeline and trying to
And Max
appease
will
him.
take his sweet time because Max doesn't care.
Because he's Max.
Yeah.
All
He's
right.
got a new baby at home and he's busy sim racing.
God bless. All right. I don't have anything else to talk about for Christian. Do you?
No, I think we've covered it. Obviously, he is one of the most successful team principals in the history of the sport. He was the youngest. He 8 drivers' championships, 6 constructors' championships, hundreds of race wins, poles, fastest laps. You know, very interesting that like drivers who have done things of note in his tenure are pretty much Max, Sebastian Vettel with his 4 championships, and then we've got like the other race winners that under him at Red Bull have been Sergio Perez, Danny Ricciardo, and Mark Webber, who we know is now as Oscar Piastri's agent. And then other podium finishers are Alex Albon, Danny Kvyat, and David Coulthard, who we know as F1 TV presenter. And Coulthard gave Red Bull its first podium in Monaco in 2006. So it's very interesting. Like, he's had so much success with such few drivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think he's fostered talent really well. Like, look at the Red Bull,
the academy,
drivers academy, and everyone who's come up through that. So, because like Sainz came up through that program, and Albon and Gasly. So yeah, there's a lot of them. So
yeah,
there's
a
really
lot.
sad to see him go. I do, and I do enjoy it. I can already see the Drive to Survive drama. I can't wait.
Somebody,
and maybe we'll get more information then. Like maybe that's when we'll understand what happened.
Somebody said, I can already hear the tweet sound that's going to introduce the segment on Christian Horner leaving. Like, they had that when Sebastian Vettel announced. All of those big announcements on Drive to Survive are always heralded by that tweet noise from Twitter, formerly known as.
Yeah, it's like, wait, Seb's on social media?
Yeah,
Hello, I am retiring.
Hello, I am here. I am going to retire, and I am going to send Formula One on the first silly season's tailspin of the next 3 years of silly season tailspin. So that's going to be really interesting. And I'm really excited to see how they dramatize this, and how much Horner will have been involved with the season, because obviously Christian Horner is a big part of Drive to Survive. So how are they going to handle that? Like, is he going to get a send off into the sunset like Danny did last season? Probably.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I can already, like, not just Drive to Survive, but even like going into the next race for media and stuff, Max is just going to get 1,000 questions that he doesn't want. Like, how do you feel about this? Are you okay? The picture of him with 1,000 phones, and he's like,
yeah. I love that picture.
That's going to be him for the rest of the season.
Honestly, he's going to be so, like, it really would truly not surprise me to see him retire before, at the end of the season and going into 26. Like, I can see him just being like, I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up next, we will finally recap our thoughts and feels on the F1 movie. Catherine has seen it 2 times now, 3 times now, twice.
Yeah.
Honestly, I might just take myself to the movie this week and watch it again before we record our episode, so that I can have some popcorn and
I took notes the second time.
I want to go back with another look, because I feel like the subtitles really distracted me when I saw it in Argentina. So I want to go back and see it with like a good bowl of popcorn, maybe do the layback seat, watch it. I'd love to see it in IMAX with all the surround sound. and just take myself to the movies to kind of decompress. I would love a blue raspberry icy. Okay,
Ooh.
that's what I will do. Catherine,
Coming
this week.
soon.
When I have time, which is never, but coming soon, you will get our breakdown, thoughts, feels on the F101 movie. But this is our red flag rundown on Christian Horner being ousted at Red Bull. Thanks for going off track with us, guys.
Great.
Cool, cool, cool.